if it was the case that red meat increased cardiovascular disease and cancer and diabetes, there would be no reason that you should want to get your nutrients from that, because that's just gonna shorten your lifespan. It's gonna increase your risk of disease. So it was like, it's a case of like, if I took cigarettes and I fortified them with B12 and iron and this and that, you're not going to then say that cigarettes are healthy. You're going to say, no, that those cigarettes are going to increase my risk of lung cancer, heart disease, etc. So it's not going to be a very good argument to say, well, I'm going to get my nutrients from red meat because blah, blah, blah. It's like, if it's going to be the case that red meat is going to increase your risk of all-cause mortality, which I just showed a meta-analysis here shows, red meat and processed meat consumption and all-cause mortality, that means death from any cause.
So okay, let me
there's no reason why you want to get your...
if that's all right. So the thing is, the meta-analyses, when you take all the studies that have been done in relation to the consumption of meat and those colorectal cancers, atherosclerosis, all those things, first of all, most of them aren't controlling, again, for the processed carbs. Now, and I know you were talking about this, but let me continue. So, and the thing is, what they actually found in addition to that is that in all these meta-analyses, about something like 80% of them were all done in Western countries. But if you look at a small amount, I think like 15% of the studies, still a large number, but in proportion to the Western studies, there's very few studies done in Asia. But when you do studies in Asia, you find that there is no relation between eating meat and increasing those risks of cancer. And I can link you that if you need. I'm looking for it right now.
Okay. What kind of study was it?
Here you go. So let me see.
Is this like Nutrirex or something?
This like what? I didn't hear you.
Nothing. Controversial.
What's more is that when people did studies on the Asians who moved from Asia to the Western countries and started eating a Western diet, SAD, which included meats, of course, then suddenly, boom, they got all the same rates of cancer as Westerners. So it had nothing to do with the genetic differences between Asians and Westerners. It was just the things other than meat that they were eating is what it seems to be suggesting. I mean, if you look at countries like Hong Kong, for example, I don't know if you know, but Hong Kong eats the most meat in the world. They have the highest life expectancy in the world as well. And all these blue zones.
You're doing exactly what you just criticized yourself of doing.
Yeah, it's a correlation, but we're talking about the meta-analyses that are done. And when you present these meta-analyses, I'm saying, well, what about all the studies in Asia that show, and Asians, it makes sense because Asians tend to eat a different diet. But when they eat meat, there's no increase in the cancer.
Yeah, but are you controlling for anything else? You're just doing a prospective study, or you're just doing a cross-sectional study, and then you're just saying, oh, well, they eat meat, but they don't have risk. They could be doing many other things. What I'm showing you is a dose-dependent review on red meat. This is not like you're doing what you just told me not to do. You're saying, don't show me an association study because there may be other factors that you're not controlling for and this and that. And then I show you the opposite of that, and then you still say, oh, well, I'm just going to show you an interventional study where they're not controlling things. There's obviously factors that can be at play that are going to affect these people's risk. Look at this study here.
So I'm looking at your all-cause mortality study. Since I'm guessing you read this and I'm looking at this for the first time, can you find where they controlled for variables such as eating like other junk foods? Like, for example, like you said that this controlled for other.
No, I was talking about the metabolic ward studies. I'm not talking about this.
Oh, what?
But this is dependent.
What metabolic rate study? Sorry.
The ones that we were talking about before with saturated fat is what I was talking about.
Oh yeah, yeah. But what about for eating meat causing these, diseases?
Let me see here.
I mean, I just find it very suspect when the American Dietetics Association, for example, cites things like the China study, which is full of just observational studies, and tons of them, as they update them, just become totally debunked. As you can see with Asian studies versus Western studies. I mean, observational studies just go all over the place, depending when you take it and, yeah, where you do it.
Let's bring in Sovereign here because I'm not sure about this one, to be honest. I haven't read this in depth completely.
I mean, it's okay if neither one of us convinces the other. It's good to see, studies on the opposite sides, but I think it's also like we've been on this for an hour. I think we should also move on to the nutrients and such.
Yeah. I just want to see if one of these guys can come in because they know more about it than I do. I'll shut up for a minute. Do one of you guys want to unmute for a second? Yeah, I think he's gonna. I'll just mute myself for a second if that's fine. If he's gonna talk. Are you there? He says he doesn't have push to talk.
It's in settings.
I'm not using push to talk though.
Really? Like whenever I use voice activity, it mutes me automatically.
Ah.
Wait, I can try and fix it so that push to talk isn't required. 1 second.
Just a sec.
Okay, it should be where you don't have to use push to talk now.
Yo.
Testing, hello? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. And you're not getting like weird feedback noise, are you?
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit? Oh no, okay.
Yeah.
How about now?
Yeah, it's better.
Oh, awesome.
All right, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, cool. There is a very, very reasonable and good explanation for the contrast between Asian and Western countries. Difference in the association between red meat and cancer, cardiovascular disease, or any other outcome you're looking at. And it's just basically the volume. If you look at any cohort in Asia that consumes red or processed meat, their numbers are so hilariously low compared to America or any other Western country. You're virtually guaranteed to not find any sort of association. It's always a dose-dependent response. And if you're looking at a ridiculously low amount, even if there is an effect, it's going to be borderline impossible to find without like billions of person data.
Well, that's an interesting possibility. Do you have sources to show that?
You can literally look at any Asian cohort and it's like hilariously small.
So like you're saying places like Korea, Vietnam, China eat very little meat? I know India eats very little meat. I know most of them are vegan, but so their lifespan is also only 60 years. So
India is a terrible example. They eat
I
horrendously.
Again.
They also eat very high saturated fat despite not eating meat, so there's that too.
Oh, what is it that has a lot of saturated fat?
Ghee, oils, butter, dairy.
The consumption is ridiculously low.
Let me see if I can find a meta-analysis on red meat that has both countries, so you can contrast the difference. So if you guys want to talk about something else, I'd hate to just plug up while I'm looking for this, but it shouldn't take too long.
MNAGs. Can you elaborate on where you saw what you said? Like I'm looking at it right now. Maybe I'm blind. I just don't see it. Maybe it's all the meat I'm eating.
I think his mic isn't working. You there?
No, he just typed it. Or if any of you can see, they said that the consumption of meat in Korea is ridiculously low. Because, I mean, I've been to Korea, and from what I see, the consumption of meat is not low.
Oh, God. You're going to try to use an anecdote to say that the consumption isn't low?
Hold on. Another point made that I want to address was this one irks me too, is Hong Kong. Everybody loves making this point. Hong Kong life expectancy is very high, yet they eat incredibly high amounts of meat. Okay, their life expectancy statistics are dependent on what? Do you believe it's this generation, which hasn't even lived to old age yet, or the previous generation, which ate substantially less meat?
I'm not sure how the study worked. I'm just taking those numbers off of face value.
Yeah, it's even like just an intuitive thing. Think about this. You can't calculate someone's life expectancy from birth. You can't just say, oh, they're going to live this long. It's based on previous generations, and they extrapolate data from previous generations to the future generations.
So you're saying that their life expectancies are now falling since they've eaten so much meat for the last 30 years?
I would give it a decade or two, and you will very much see it reflected in mortality data.
It's unfortunate because human lifespan's, much longer than a study. Otherwise, we'd have a lot more information on this. But it's not just Hong Kong. I mean, it's a lot of the blue zones that, they used to point to the blue zones and say, oh my God, look at them. They're eating small amounts of fish, lots of whole fruits and vegetables. And now, you look at them now, and it's like they're eating a lot of meat and there's no difference. And it's like...
Absolutely there is.
So let's look at South Italy, for example. Lots of meat. It's a blue zone with one of the highest life expectancies in the world. Let me just look it up quickly to make sure I'm not bullshitting. Yeah, Sardinia. Home to the world's longest living men.
50 years ago. Hopefully MNegs can pull up that. I think he must have opened the whole study, the one that you linked, to see that, because it's definitely not in the abstract. You can see it right away.
So, wait a second here. How come he can't talk? He's saying that he can't talk in the chat.
I guess he went line that he said he's lost.
No, for some reason, Thomas has to unmute you.
Now?
All right, but we've given this a good hour. I think we've unpacked some, ideas and holes. So let's talk about the nutrition, which was my original statement. Like I said, plants don't have omega-3, DHA, EPA. I think these are important things, and we can't just throw them out of our diet willy-nilly and not expect anything bad to happen. So, all right, would you guys say that plants have omega-3, DHA, EPA? Because they really don't. And this applies to not just omega-3, but so many other nutrients. It's like at least 10.
He said he showed the studies.
Oh, okay. Wait, how come he can't talk? I'm trying to see.
He pasted it right in the chat. He literally highlighted it.